There are now 7 total installments in the Scream franchise, and today I'm ranking them. And as a wise man once said, there are rules that one must abide by to successfully survive a horror movie. Today, I am ranking every Scream movie, including the newly released Scream 7. And if you enjoyed today's video, I really hope that you subscribe to the channel and like this video. It really helps the channel grow. Also, follow Popcorn Heist on Instagram, where we have reels and trivia on Tuesdays and polls on Saturday. At Popcorn Heist, I choose a quote for every video, and the quote of today's video is, "There are rules one must abide by to successfully survive a horror movie," which is said by Randy in the first installment of Scream, the original Scream. I feel like this quote is so pivotal to the Scream formula and the Scream franchise. Every movie really establishes its own rules and tries to pay off on those rules. I would say some movies do it better than others. It's one of the things that makes Scream enjoyable and meta and able to successfully reference itself over and over again without getting stale. Scream is one of my favorite horror franchises. I would actually say it's probably one of my favorite franchises in general. I would say out of any horror franchise or any franchise, once you get to the 7th installment, you would expect some to be not great or downright bad. I would say Scream is pretty consistent. I wouldn't say there's a Scream movie that I hate or really dislike. I would say they're all average or above average. So I'm excited to rank all of them today because it will be a hard choice between some of these installments. I also want to hear what you have to say, so please comment down below. What is your favorite and least favorite Scream movie and why? I will also be touching on spoilers from each of these movies, so this is your spoiler warning for the entire Scream franchise. At number 7, I have Scream 3. Scream 3 attempts to be the most meta of the entire Scream franchise by taking place on the Stab 3 set. Although I do love when Scream tries to go meta, I think Scream 3 takes it a little bit too far, and it almost feels more like a comedy than a horror movie. Usually Scream is pretty good on balancing horror and comedy, but I think Scream 3 takes it a little too far with the comedy. At times, this one feels the most like a parody. This one actually feels the most like a Stab movie rather than a Scream movie. I love that Randy delivers the rules in this installment from the grave over video. I will say the rules don't really feel like they are implemented in this movie. They say that the kills are going to be more gory than ever, and the kills are a lot less gory in this movie. And they say that none of the legacy characters are safe, but the legacy characters really are safe throughout the entire movie. You never feel like they're in imminent danger, and they never pay off with any deaths that are of major characters in the franchise. They also try to enter this plot device where the characters are dying off in the same order that they are supposed to die off in the script of Scream 3, but I think that gets muddled pretty quickly, so it becomes not as enjoyable really quickly when they start re-editing the scripts and changing which character is supposed to be next. There are also some really unrealistic moments that could not have been anticipated by Ghostface in this movie, where one character uses a lighter to try to read the script and the entire house blows up. There's really no way that Ghostface could have known that the character was gonna try to use a lighter. There are also some weird dream sequences with Sydney's mom, and it's kind of unclear if some of them are dream sequences or they're really Ghostface. I think it's supposed to add an element of stakes and make the Ghostface reveal better later in the movie, but because it's not really explained, it just makes things more confusing. And although the Ghostface reveal does connect well to the earlier movies in the franchise, I do think it's one of the weaker ones. I feel like it diminishes Billy and Stu's motivation in the first movie, and it kind of comes out of left field, so it's not the worst reveal in the entire Scream franchise, but it's just one of the weaker ones. This movie is also really light on Sydney. At times it feels like Sydney disappears for a while. It also feels a little bit creepy in hindsight because this movie does touch on the abuses of Hollywood executives, but it's produced by Harvey Weinstein, so it doesn't really age that well in that respect. I do enjoy Scream 3, but it tries to go a little bit too meta with things, and in that respect, it goes too hard on the comedy and feels more like a Stab movie than a Scream movie. At number 6, I have the newest installment in the Scream franchise, Scream 7. Although I'm glad to see Sydney back, we are missing the main characters from the new generation that we established over the last 2 movies, and in that respect, it's trying to balance the OG legacy characters in Gale and Sydney some of the characters from the new generation over the last two movies, like Mindy and Chad, and trying to establish a new generation of characters in Sydney's daughter and her friends, and it just tries to balance a little too much and really does not deliver on spending enough time with the myriad of characters that it establishes. Because of all the controversy, it puts itself in a really tough situation in trying to continue the story from the last two movies, but take the main characters out and reestablish Sydney. And instead of leaning into that, it kind of shies away from it, and it doesn't establish its place in the Scream franchise and feels really unnecessary. At times it feels like someone put the situation into an AI and told them just to inject some of the things that make a Scream movie, so it falls short on all of those things. And in that respect, it feels a little bit empty and feels a little bit hollow and doesn't really deliver on the things it's setting out to do. The Ghostface reveal in this movie is by far the weakest in the entire franchise. The Ghostface being inspired by Sydney, also mad she wasn't in the last installment, but wanting to kill her and reestablish a new Sydney in her daughter, it really just falters on establishing a true motivation for the Ghostface killers. They try to do something a little bit different with the reveal, but in the end it just makes the movie more confusing and less enjoyable to try to figure out who Ghostface is because it's balancing so many things. It does have some of the better and more enjoyable and more gory kills in the Scream franchise, so I will give it credit for that. Scream 7 just does not embrace its place in the Scream franchise and tries to deliver on a little bit of everything and therefore falls short on everything. At number 5, I have Scream 6. Scream 6 does a great job of paving its own path. I love having Ghostface in New York. It definitely feels very different as compared to some of the other Scream movies and is parallel to a lot of where other horror franchises went. I would say that Scream 6 has some of the best scenes in all of Scream, whether it be them crawling on the ladder across the apartment buildings, or them in the subway, or the scene in Gail's apartment where she talks to Ghostface on the phone for the very first time.
Hello, Gail. Strange that you and I have never spoken on the phone.
I actually can't believe that's the first time they ever talked, but it makes for such a great scene. Although it has some really enjoyable scenes, I don't think the movie as a whole comes together. I think it falls short on delivering the promises that its rules lay out. They say that no legacy character is safe, and basically all of the characters get stabbed and still survive. Gail, Kirby, Chad, Mindy, all get stabbed and should be dead from what we see, but the movie is too afraid to kill any of them. In most Scream movies, I feel like the heroes have to double tap Ghostface and shoot him in the head. In this movie, I almost feel like it's the opposite, where Ghostface should be double tapping on his kills. I feel like the Ghostface reveal in this one is one of the weaker ones of the franchise. One, how did he get all this Scream paraphernalia? They give a very half-baked explanation on that. And they try to redo the Scream 2 reveal that it's the family of the killer from the last movie, but this time it's Richie's family instead of Billy Loomis's family, and Richie's just no Billy Loomis. They also try to up the ante with 3 Ghostfaces instead of 2, but I don't think that reveal works and makes the Ghostface reveal any more interesting, especially because you don't care that much about any of the 3 characters who end up being Ghostface. So although I love some of the scenes in Scream 6 and I think they're some of the best of the franchise, I don't think the movie comes together as the most enjoyable, cohesive project. At number 4, I have Scream 2022. AKA Scream 5. Although it doesn't quite make sense that they dropped the number from this movie, I do love that it harks back to a lot of what the other horror movies around this time were doing, and I think that Scream 5 really does everything right to establish the new generation of characters and accept its place in the franchise as a reboot. Because this movie accepts its place as a reboot and kind of leans into that, it does a great job in establishing this new generation of characters, re-establishing the rules of a reboot, referencing other reboots and other movies that are coming out at the time, and using the legacy characters but still not focusing too much that it takes away from the new characters. Even Ghostface's motivation has to do with creating a great reboot, so the way it connects everything through this theme of creating a good reboot, I think works really well in the movie. The kills are also really good in this movie, whether it be Ghostface's kills or how they kill Ghostface in the end. I know a lot of people don't love the portrayal of Dewey as a divorced husband and a deadbeat, but I think he's fun in this movie, and I think it connects to a lot of how legacy characters are used across other reboots. So I think it works, and I think he's very charming in this movie. And although they did him dirty with his death, it is the first time and last time they've killed a legacy character since Scream 2. So although I'm sad to see him go, it does make the movie feel like it has real stakes and is a successful way to bring Gale and Sydney into the fold and bring them together. It's kind of easy to forget how good this one is, but it really does deliver on all fronts, whether it be kills or references or Ghostface motivations or use of legacy characters and establishment of a new generation. So I think this is a good installment in the Scream franchise that's all connected via its acceptance of being a proper reboot. At number 3, I have Scream 2. This is honestly lower than I've seen it on any other list, and I definitely don't mean to say I don't like this movie, because I do love this movie. I think it is a great sequel, and it's the first introduction of Stab in the universe of Scream, so that really brings a new level of meta to this movie and the Scream franchise as a whole. I think this movie does a great job of redoing what needs to be redone from the first installment, but updating it and kind of paving its own way as we go into the sequel. We have the rules and the movie references, but both are updated to be tailored to sequels rather than just horror movies in general. We have the main squad and a new list of suspects, but because this is the second installment, you really don't know who is safe and who is possible to be the Ghostface killer. Can it be a legacy character, or does it have to be a new character? And because we're only on the second installment, it's able to make some of those decisions for itself and kind of re-establish itself. I love the updated setting, and it feels like we're following Sydney into this next phase of her life, as we're following the franchise into its next phase as well. And I think the Ghostface reveal is one of the stronger in the franchise. I think you have the same dynamic as Billy and Stu, where you have the mastermind and the crazy person, and I love the theme of let's blame it on the movies, because I think it's relevant to the franchise and the outside world. And you also have this connection of the killer to the killer of the first one via it being Billy Loomis's mom. So you kind of feel like we really are continuing one same story across the franchise. It's funny because there's really not much negative to say about this movie, and I think it's a great sequel, an iconic continuation of the Scream franchise, and defines so many things that really make Scream's DNA. There's just some installments that I enjoy a little bit more than this one. At number 2, I have Scream 4. Every time I revisit Scream 4, I'm reminded just how great it is. It's kind of funny because it doesn't really have a specific place in the Scream universe. It's kind of starting this new generation, but it doesn't start that new generation in perpetuity, so it's not the true reboot that Scream 5 is, but it's also not really a sequel to Scream 1, 2, and 3. Even though it's hard to describe this one's place in the Scream universe, I think it fires on all cylinders. It uses all of its legacy characters really well. The only exception to that is Dewey is a little bit less comical and almost a little bit annoying in this movie because he's the sheriff now. Gale in this movie is great. I think it breaks her out of her usual mold, where in most Scream movies she starts and Sidney's mad at her and Dewey's mad at her and she grows over time. Scream 4, she starts out married to Dewey, and she has a pretty consistent and enjoyable presence the entire time. She shows she's like a better detective than Dewey throughout this movie. This movie also uses Sydney really well. It shows that she's really become a true powerhouse and has accepted her past, and also establishes her family. This movie also delivers on everything that makes a Scream movie great. The movie references are off the charts. That scene where Kirby is on the phone with Ghostface and is naming all of the different horror movies.
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror.
One of the best scenes in the Scream franchise, and just throughout, the way they weave all of the movies from that time into the plot and the rules of the movie. It just works insanely well. There's also some amazing Ghostface kills and iconic Ghostface phone calls in this movie. I also love the use of tech in this movie and updating the tech for the time, in that Ghostface wants to stream all of his kills and stream his plan. It's relevant to what was going on at the time with the movement to videos and streaming, and is still relevant today. The Ghostface reveal is one of the best in that it's Sydney's family member and really the closest person to her since the Ghostface reveal of Scream 1 in Billy Loomis. And I love the motivation that Ghostface is just jealous of Sydney and wants to be famous. And Emma Roberts just makes a fun and comedic and sinister Ghostface. With great motivations and great one-liners. I will say the final sequence goes a little bit too long following the Ghostface reveal as they move into the hospital and Ghostface is still trying to kill everyone. At a certain point, you're like, what's your plan here? You're clearly gonna get caught. Like, how are you gonna play this off? But it's still a fun and funny and enjoyable sequence that has a lot of great lines. So although Scream 4 doesn't have its clear place in the larger Scream franchise, I think it delivers on all the things that make Scream movies great and is one of the most enjoyable Scream movies to watch, with a great Ghostface reveal and great Ghostface kills, which makes it so high on my Scream ranking list. And at number 1, of course, the original Scream. The original Scream is such an enjoyable movie to watch and such a pivotal movie in the horror genre. It's pretty groundbreaking how it's able to deliver on the slasher and have some really gory kills looking back, especially that first scene, but it also is able to reference itself and have the satirical nature and have commentary on horror movies as a whole. The opening scene is so amazing and so iconic.
What's your favorite scary movie?
They've never been able to recapture that in any future Scream movie or any horror movie. And from there forward, the pacing is pretty quick. Ghostface comes in and starts killing the main characters pretty quickly in this movie. It establishes Neve Campbell, Sydney, as the ultimate Scream queen. There's a reason they keep bringing that character back. She's just so enjoyable on screen. And this movie, although it doesn't show her as the beast that she eventually becomes, it definitely lays the seeds to show her as this tough Scream queen that you don't want to mess with. It establishes everything that makes this franchise so special, whether it be the phone calls, the rules, the satire, the movie references, and of course, the Ghostface reveal. Although it's become commonplace throughout the franchise, it's pretty surprising to have 2 Ghostface killers, and Billy and Stu make for probably the 2 best Ghostface killers that haven't been able to be topped since this movie. It so successfully balances comedy, satire, and horror that it really creates a different tone from anything else that exists and sets the tone for the rest of the Scream franchise. I just have so much love for this movie and so much respect for how original it is and how much it defined the larger horror genre that it is easily my number 1 favorite Scream movie. Thank you for joining me for this ranking, and if you enjoyed this video, I really hope that you'll join me for more rankings and more Scream content. If you want to hear my more detailed thoughts on Scream 7, I've linked my spoiler-free and spoiler reviews here and in the description.